right. That is a disturbing breakdown. Esteban Carrillo. How you doing, man? You doing okay today?
Hey, Jamal. Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here. And I was just listening to the last few minutes of Vanessa's intervention. Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant stuff, and
She,
disturbing as well.
she is a fantastic journalist, but Jesus, that is a withering point of view. Like
Yeah,
as she points out, she was there in Damascus as it was falling. Like, grab my dog, grab my clothes, and get out.
yeah.
And she had lived in Syria for God knows how long. I've known Vanessa for a while. That was my first time catching up with her in a very long time. And the interview ran late, so thank you for this. And I'm going to
No
push
worries at all.
Dimitri
No
to
worries
push
at
him
all.
further into the thing too. Esteban Carrillo, he is an Ecuadorian journalist currently writing for The Cradle, previously with Tell Us Our English. The Cradle is a fantastic magazine. I oftentimes when I'm talking about DD geopolitics, I often bring up The Cradle because both of you guys have really good work in regards to the continuity of stories that you come up with. And oftentimes those stories are solid and it allows a basis of research to continue. So you guys do fantastic work.
Thank you so much, Ramon. Thank you so much.
You sent me a video about a bomb that went off in Ecuador.
Mhm.
Now, what's wild about this, we've been watching Donald Trump scream bloody murder about drugs coming out of Venezuela and murdering people left and right, including a failed murder attempt that recently took place. And yet, what is going on in Ecuador is deeply disturbing. Give us an understanding of this. What happened?
Well, essentially, what's happening in Ecuador over the past month, it's a popular protest that the government has not been able to quell. Discontent. Currently, Ecuador is essentially handed over to the IMF. Anything the IMF asks, we said yes. This has been the case for the past 8 years since the neoliberal regimes took power. We have, and this has kind of blown up over the past several weeks, especially with the government of Daniel Noboa. For those of you who may remember, I know
Mhm.
Ecuador is pretty, unfortunately, is really inconsequential when it comes to geopolitics. But we have a Miami-born president who is he's a U.S. citizen. For all intents and purposes, our president is a U.S. citizen. He defends the interests of the United States in Latin America, and has it been implemented, heavier, harsher austerity measures and police repression, military repression. So this all kind of came to a head. I think it was Wednesday when this car bomb went off in the middle of a populated area in Ecuador's main port city, which at this point is essentially, run by the drug cartels. Ecuador is really the country where most of the cocaine that leaves for the Europe, in particular, it's being shipped from. I don't know if you saw, like just a few weeks ago, Russia at the St. Petersburg port, they seized the largest shipment of cocaine ever in their history. It was like, I forget the exact number, but it was like hundreds of tons of cocaine inside of banana boxes from Ecuador. So
He spoke to
it's
Zelensky. It was sent to Kiev. No, I'm sorry.
probably, yeah.
I'm sorry. That's a whole
Volodymyr
different.
said, the same guy who planned the Nord Stream bombing, right? According to German
Yeah.
prosecutors. Uh, so yeah, essentially this is what happens, right? You have a month-long protest. Earlier in the day, heavy repression. I didn't send you those videos, Jamal, but the repression that they did against indigenous people in particular, because you must understand, like just like Bolivia or Peru, Ecuador has a very significant indigenous population who
Yes.
are the most affected, right? Because these are the field workers, these are the people who transport. Like the fields feed the city. The farm, the what do you call it? Never mind. Well, they feed the city, right? So they protest because by slashing diesel subsidies, by implementing austerity measures, what they do is they make their life even more impossible at a time in which security is essentially non-existent in the country, in which education it's been destroyed, in which hospitals. Jamal, if you go to a hospital, in a public hospital in Ecuador today, they will ask you to even buy the aspirin, the gauze, the
Really.
implements. If you need surgery, if you need
Oh,
anything, they will tell you, come back, buy everything, and in the pharmacies outside, and then come back here. And the doctor will, I guess, do something if they ever get to you, right? So it's a complete devastating situation what's happening in Ecuador. So the people, they go out to protest. Novoa sends thousands upon thousands of troops to these towns, to these indigenous towns. They've, bust heads. They have killed at least 3 protesters so far. with bullets, by shooting them, or where one of them was asphyxiated because they dropped so many tear gas bombs, canisters. The entire cities were covered, in tear gas clouds. And at the day that this repression is the most violent, with police and army just cracking down on everyone and everything that moves, hours later, a car bomb in Guayaquil, allegedly an attempt on the life of the president, because the car bomb goes off outside of the building where his aunt supposedly lives, which the Noboa family, again, the richest family in Ecuador. You're talking about an empire, they're billionaires. So this is not the first time. I think you must remember a couple of years ago you had me on to talk about when they took the TV station. Remember when those kids walked in with the guns and they took control of the TV station? Jamal, to this day, it's not known who was actually behind it. It's been 2 years, and there's no information who was behind it, what was the motive, what were the demands. Nobody was hurt, thankfully, that day, but it did open the doors for Noboa to declare an internal armed conflict, and then to declare drug cartels, 22 drug cartels, drug gangs, as terrorist groups. In the past 2 years, not a single one of those 22 drug gangs have been dismantled, not a single one. And you had one after the other, drug lords, one after the other, escape prison with the help of the military, with the help of the police. The latest one, there's video of him literally walking out, dressed as a soldier, with the full gear, escorted by actual members of the military, of the armed forces. So on the one hand, you have a narco state. Ecuador, narco state, completely. Cocaine being shipped in the banana boxes that are shipped by the company of the president. The Noboa company is the one shipping these boxes of bananas filled with cocaine. And a police that is non-existent, army that is non-existent. There's no radars in the port, not scanners in the ports. There's no radars in our borders. It's a complete free-for-all. We are, at this point, I think we're reaching 7,000 homicides so far this year. Just this year. Ecuador is more dangerous today than Haiti, is more dangerous than the only country that has a higher homicide rate than Ecuador in the world is Jamaica. We are number 2. We have 5 of the most dangerous cities in the entire world. So,
Esteban, when I was there,
go ahead. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
This is very depressing to me. When I was in Quito, this was not. Ecuador, when I went, was one of the safest cities in South America. Like literally one of the safest cities. It is a very depressing thing to hear that this is where it is now. 7,000 homicides.
Yeah, so far this year. I mean, every year is worse. Every year is more. And just to what I was getting at is just that at the same time that you have police cracking down on protesters, with the just completely geared up, with the trucks and the weapons and everything, helicopters. When it's about cracking down on drug gangs, they're nowhere to be seen. They're literally nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found. They are just non-existent. They're only there to crack down on protests. And this is not shocking in any neoliberal regime. We have seen this before. We saw it in Bolivia during the coup years. We're seeing it in Peru as well. In Peru, very heavy protests, and they just killed a protester over the past day, the police as well. In Argentina, I remember a few months ago, they cracked down on retirees, on senior citizens. The police cracked down on them. So it's just like this tale of what is happening across Latin America, while Donald Trump is claiming that Venezuela is the one that is exporting the drugs. Although all UN agencies, the UN Agency for Drugs and the other NGOs have shown with data that only about 5% of the drugs that enter the U.S. come from Venezuela's shores, come from the Caribbean Sea, while over 86% come from Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru. So it's very concerning what's happening in Ecuador, because it goes to show you that what this Plan Condor 2.0, right? This expansion of the Monroe Doctrine on steroids truly means. Because you have Venezuela that is essentially about to be invaded, it's just a matter of time. You have Argentina, which at this point is being just sunk in debt, just completely sunk in debt that they're never going to be able to pay off. And you have a country like Ecuador that is under the control of a narco government, a narco state that uses the police freely to repress protests, to kill protesters, and then, more likely than not, sets off false flag attacks like this car bomb, like the taking of the TV station a couple of years ago, to pursue their political goals and to persecute political opponents. Because here's the kicker about what's happening in Ecuador. In less than a month, Ecuadorians are heading back to the polls. Ecuador has been living like a prolonged electoral process for the past 5 years. We are headed back to the polls for a referendum in which Daniel Noboa essentially wants to redraft the constitution. He wants to redraft the constitution entirely to fit his vision of governance, which is we take everything and screw everyone else.
For some reason, Noboa, that name is familiar to me. When I was there was, I don't think it was a presidential election, but I remember having a conversation with the hotel owner. And he was pointing out, he says, yeah, because Ecuador uses dollars. At the time, the guy who was running for election, it was like a Democrat and a Republican. They said that the Republican was going to win. He said it was the richest man in Ecuador. We may be talking about the same person.
I think you're talking about his dad. His dad ran five times, and he lost 5 times. And his son, oh my God, man! Like this dude is it feels like he's based his entire model of government on The Prince, the Machiavellian book.
Yes.
Like he truly is a macabre operator. He is a sociopath. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, honestly, the only achievement that we had that this strike has actually gotten so far is to make sure that Noboa stayed in the country for a whole month. Because in the past 2 years of his government, the man was essentially gone the entire time. He was always on a trip somewhere. He was always taking pictures for his Instagram. Meanwhile, the country burning down, the homicides going through the roof, the hospitals with no medicine, blackmail, Jamar, like people, school children are being blackmailed to go to school, to be safe. The gangs are blackmailing teachers, are blackmailing school children, are blackmailing parents. You got to pay me $50 a week, or if not, we'll kill you. It's an everyday thing today.
It has evolved to that degree. Meaning the gangs have become instantiated in the country.
It's somehow as bad, or sometimes maybe even worse than the situation in Haiti, which is, unfortunately, a crisis that is often forgotten historically. But Ecuador is truly, right now, the perfect example of what happens when you not just shrink the state, when you disappear the state. Because that's the neoliberal agenda, right? Like a big state, we need to shrink it. It needs to be efficient. It needs to be this. It needs to be that. They've shrunk it so much that it's disappeared. It's gone.
It sounds like they didn't just shrink it; they're using it for the drugs.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gotten to the point where the gangs have been almost like a part of government itself. It's very strange.
They are. You have provinces, you have cities in which the local administrations are in actual business with the drug cartels. What do I mean by that? They they're contractors. When, I don't know, for road building, let's say, the contractor is a drug cartel, is an actual member of a drug gang. Remember that before Noboa, the reason Noboa is in power currently is because a couple of years ago there was the snap elections, when banker Guillermo Lasso called for snap elections because he was also completely inefficient at his job. So he called snap elections. And the reason he called snap elections was because he was facing impeachment charges over an investigation that showed that his brother-in-law was in bed with the Albanian mafia. The Albanian mafia are the group that controls the cocaine flow into Europe through the port of Antwerp in Brussels. And they were essentially working with the brother-in-law of the president to name the heads of ministries, in particular the agricultural ministry, which at this point is essentially another drug cartel. Like the banana boxes that live with the cocaine come from companies that have been given expansions of the quota of how much they can export per year by the agriculture ministry itself. The corruption, it's so deep, it runs so deep, it's so profound, and it's so, as you said, you're completely correct. It's not just that they disappeared the state, it's that they took control of it to turn it into a drug organization. Exactly what they say that Venezuela is. When they say Nicolás Maduro is actually the head of the cartel of the sons, is what they call it. That's the truth in Ecuador. In Ecuador, the government is an actual drug cartel, and there's evidence of this. And there's there's been investigations into this. And anytime a new journalist and somebody is brave enough to look into this and uncover some new piece of the puzzle, they immediately receive death threats and they have to flee the country. At this point, we have many journalists who have had to flee the country because of death threats. And in the meantime, it's just they try to cover everything up by blaming the opposition, as they always do, right? Like they try to portray the actual opposition to this government as the drug cartel, as the terrorists. The protesters over the past month, they have been called day in and day out terrorists funded by drug cartels. It's that inversion that Zionists are so good at, right? The inversion of we are the victims and the Palestinians are the aggressors. It's the same thing. It's the same agenda being applied.
Every accusation is a confession.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that is disturbing. Is there political opposition in Ecuador, or is because the problem is the moment that the government loses, you may have a government that, again, when I was there, Ecuador was safe, and
it was the second safest country in Latin America for several years.
I mean, I had a fantastic time there. People were nice as can be. I mean, this is kind of why I focus on these stories, especially places I've been that I really liked. The moment that the government leaves, though, and you allow the gangs in, they maintain their space, meaning they're not going to want to leave, even if you could get a political figure in. And they nearly murdered that other political figure, then blamed it on the left-wing candidate. I distinctly remember that.
They actually did. They actually murdered. They killed when the leftist was leading, when the left party was about to win in a first round, because in Ecuador we have the first round and then maybe a runoff if you don't get more than 50% of the votes. The leftist candidate, all the polls were showing that she was leading with enough points to win in the first round. So what happens? One of the candidates gets murdered, and it's one of the candidates who is actually, it has been revealed since then, he was a DEA informer. He was a DEA informer. He was a U.S. Embassy employee. Yes, he was a DEA informer that was also in bed with some of the drug cartels, because there's no clean informer. There's never been, I'm an informer for the DEA because I want to, save my country or anything. It's because, I want to avoid jail time. So he gets killed. He gets, shot in the head after leaving a campaign event. Again, there's still to this day, this was over 2 years ago, no culprit. No one has been actually.
Oh, no prosecutions for this.
No prosecution. All of the people who were arrested in the days following. In the days following his murder, they arrested about 8 people. All except for one were killed in prison, were found dead in prison. And what do you call it? Whoever was behind it, whoever actually planned it, to this day, there is no information. And the only information that there has been is, as you said, Jamar, to blame the leftists, to be like, oh, it's them, it's the left, the left-wing party because they're all a bunch of terrorists, all a bunch of drug cartels. And the wife of this candidate just a few months ago came out to say that in the days following his murder, she was pressured by the attorney general at the time, who is never mind, I'll not get into that right now. But she came out to say that the attorney general at the time pressured her to blame Rafael Correa personally.
Are you serious?
Yes. She said, they called me, the wife of Villavicencio, who's the candidate who was killed, and said, the attorney general called me and told me, you need to go on the news and say that it was Rafael Correa behind the murder, because we have someone who told us this, like some witness, some person who was involved in this murder. There's no actual evidence. And then since then, she has come out to say she lied to me, because it's been 2 years since the murder of my husband, and there's been absolutely no movement to find out the actual culprit. So when they told me it was a Rafael Correa, it was just to manipulate the elections.
All of this over Julian Assange.
the car bomb that went off a couple of days ago in Guayaquil, hours after it went off, who do you think they were blaming, Jamal?
They were blaming Correa. Are
Yeah.
you serious?
I wish I was joking. I swear to God, I wish it was just like, it's not. It's been 8 years in which the one president in Ecuador that actually, reduced poverty, reduced
Crime,
well,
all of
exactly, reduced crime
strengthening the state.
significantly, whose government was awarded by the U.S. for reducing the flow of cocaine out of Ecuador, who was recognized across the world for having one of the most progressive constitutions, is
That's
to
the
this
guy they
day
go after.
the one that is blamed for everything, absolutely everything. For the protest, he's behind them. For a car bomb, he's behind them. Assassination of a political opponent, he's behind them. Like everything. And this is a man who has been stripped of his. In Ecuador, they give the former presidents, the lifetime like stipend, like salary they receive. He's been stripped of that. He's been stripped of any security that he could have as a former president. He's been, prosecuted. He has like dozens of cases against him in Ecuador. He's been condemned in absentia. He for a psychic influence. Remember that? Like the reason they want to jail him, and this is the same attorney general who told the wife of this candidate that it was Correa who killed his husband, who ordered the hit on his husband a few years before when they condemned Correa. She went on TV and she said, "We don't have evidence that Rafael Correa actually took any, payments or corruption or anything, but he exerted psychic influence, Jamal. He exerted psychic influence so that all of his underlings were taking, payments under the table, etc." It's if it wasn't as devastating as it has been, it would be hilarious. It would be a comedy. It's like
Yeah.
somebody make a comedy out of this because it's very funny. But the reality is so much different because Ecuador it's a river of blood. It's as bad as Colombia was during the years of Pablo Escobar. And like I said, at this point, only Haiti in Latin America, only Haiti and Jamaica are possibly facing a crisis that are a bit worse than Ecuador.
Esteban, this is disturbing. I thank you for giving us a breakdown on this. I mean, sometimes these things get out of our eye shot.
Yeah.
Thank you for hitting me up on this and sending me the car bomb. I hadn't seen it. I mean, I had been so focused on what was been taking place in the U.S. and Gaza and Russia.
No, and I feel like, and just I don't want to extend myself too long, Jamal, but I just want to say very quickly, the U.S. is coming for South America. The U.S. is coming for South America. Like, this is not just about Venezuela. The troops is not just about Venezuela. This is about the entire region. The whole war on terror that destroyed West Asia is being transplanted. They're moving it to Latin America. And I feel like we are simply not ready. Our countries are not prepared for what's coming, and many people are simply not seeing the scale of the destruction that awaits us. Because if it's not war, it's again what's happening to Argentina, being sunk in an unpayable debt, and those are going to be our only two options moving forward, unless the entire continent, the all of Latin America, all of South America, joins together to fight against this onslaught. If we don't do that, we're screwed.
Esteban Carrillo, he is a Ecuadorian journalist currently writing for The Cradle. He was previously with Telesur English, and again, The Cradle is a fantastic outlet. Esteban, thank you for this, man. I hadn't seen you in a while, so I'm glad to see you. Thank you for this.
I'm
really
glad as well.
It.
We'll talk
You be
later.
safe, okay?
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.